It's so nice. All right, we can see some other kayakers coming back in front of us. So if you guys all see the end of the island, the far right hand side, so you see far right point, there's like some lighter trees and some darker trees. The darker trees are another point sticking out, that Swallow Point. That is pretty much exactly where we're gonna point our boats and paddle.
For your reference, a typical crossing out to Sand Island in the Apostle Islands takes about an hour and a half. We were on pace for that. We crossed out to the Sand Island Sea Caves at Swallow Point, which you can see right here.
Oh, splash. How are y'all feeling? How was that crossing? Whoop, whoop. All right, cool. We all look like way more stable than the first 5 minutes of the paddle. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Great shit. How did we feel about the caves? Going cool. We'll do another pass through on the way back. This is kind of where they terminate. Our campsite's back that way.
I have worked as a sea kayak guide in the Apostle Islands since 2018, interrupted by guiding on the West Coast for a few summers and a summer teaching abroad. But Wisconsin's Apostle Islands still remain one of my favorite places in the world to work and visit. Here you're looking at Devil's Island Sandstone Sea Caves on Sand Island, a thin band of sandstone extending along the outer western edge of the islands and down onto the mainland as well. This sandstone was deposited over 1 billion years ago from the tops of ancient mountains, and if you look closely, in some places you can still find fossilized ripples from the braided streams that laced over the ancient landscape here. Fast forward a few million years of geologic time, and the region was buried under thousands of tons of glaciers. When those glaciers receded, they left behind glacial Lake Duluth, which after the last glacial period ended and gave way around 10,000 years ago to Lake Superior, a closer version to what we know and love today. Over the past handful of thousands of years, this sandstone has been exposed to the wind, waves, and ice of the lake, carving out these dramatic caves that we can paddle through today. I think one of the things that I find most compelling about sea kayaking in this area is that the conditions that it took to carve out these caves are the same conditions that make them hazardous to kayakers. All of the caves are on exposed points and were created by erosion due to big waves and wind. In recent years especially, this is something I think has really been lost on a lot of the tourists that come up to visit. I think we have a tendency to see a beautiful video online and assume that that's the whole of a place without learning the layers beneath it, considering the geology, geography, and human history of an area and how all of those things intersect. I actually cut the previous clip short because we paddled past 2 people smoking cigarettes and drinking beer on sit-on-top kayaks. One, I don't like to show people who have not expressly consented to being in a video, but also that's not ideal sea caves behavior. A sit-on-top kayak, in my opinion, is slightly more safe than the type of kayak you might pick up at a big box store, like a Sun Dolphin kayak. For example, just because those kayaks do not have bulkheads, meaning that if you capsize, they will fill with water and sink out from under you, and you will just be a swimmer in the water, which is super not great, especially if you're crossing between islands or you're paddling cliffs where there's no exit point, there's no bailout. We paddle on these trips, we paddle sea kayaks, which are greater than 16 feet in length with sealed bulkheads or pockets of air at either end. If you look at the front of my kayak, at that black circle that is a hatch cover, inside is my camping gear, and it's basically extra flotation, and that's in either end of the kayaks. It's also in these double kayaks that the people on my trip are in, and the idea is if anyone flips, I can rescue them back in and we can keep going even if we're between islands. So basically, in order to make a trip like this happen, you need the rescue skills, you need the right gear, and ideally you want local knowledge as well. And I do say right gear, but it's worth noting that the indigenous people, the Ojibwe people in this area, did travel by canoe between islands traditionally, and they would bail out in different methods, and that worked for them. I generally, the average kayak or the average canoeist probably does not want to be out on Lake Superior in a canoe, and float bags are considered a prerequisite these days. Setting up camp on Sand Island. Can you believe all that fits in the kayaks? We are hiking out to the lighthouse. This spot always reminds me of Anne of Green Gables. I love the fog right now so much. Here's the lighthouse, and back to the lake. we are cooking whitefish over the fire tonight. One thing about this group is everyone was like pretty stoked to paddle, and it was a pretty small group, so we sat around the map and picked out a kind of unique route for the next morning. It was one I'd never done, and we had a big northeast tailwind, and here's how it went. So there were 3 main reasons I was super stoked to do this route. The first being that I have paddled all over the Apostle Islands. The thing I love most about them is that there's always new shoreline to explore. And the 2 islands I'm missing are Long Island and North Twin. But this was not a route I had done before, paddling from Sand into Myers Beach. Here we're paddling up to Sand Point, which is outside of the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. It is on Red Cliff Ojibwe indigenous land, and all of the Apostle Islands are still used and still part of like the Red Cliff Ojibwe and Bad River Ojibwe heritage. But yeah, this has not been a route that I'd done before, so I was pretty excited to do that. It's like not always that you have a group strong enough to do something long, like a long 10-mile day on your last day, which is really cool, or that you have a group motivated to have a like more adventure trip than like a chill camping vacation. So that was like super exciting to me that everyone was really game for it. And then also we had a really good forecast for it. It's always good when you have a tailwind all the way in. It can like, what did we do? We launched around 9 a.m. and then had lunch from like 11 or 10:30 to 11. We took a long lunch, and then we still landed by 1, which is awesome because in the morning we all sat down around the map, and when I was like getting people's opinions on like, okay, we've got 2 options. We can paddle straight back and like take a slow morning, or we can do this long downwinder, see a little bit more. We are going to be paddling in conditions. We'll be probably in 2 to 3 foot waves for some of it, and there's a small craft advisory beginning at 1 p.m. So ideally, we want to be landed by 1 p.m. So it'll be a quick paddle, but a exciting one. And everyone like heard me out. I pointed out the specific spots on the map that I imagined there would be bigger waves, and everyone was like, you know what, I'm game to try it if you think we can do it. And I'm like, we can definitely do it. I've seen crazier things have happened. Yeah, so we launched, and in a second we'll flash to the next photo or next video. Yep, here we are. So this is coming like around the actual Myers Beach Sea Caves. This is kind of the area that I pointed out is likely to have 2 to 3 foot waves, and we were actually looking more at 1.5 to 2.5 foot waves, so a little bit smaller than I had predicted based on the forecast. Can't complain about that too much, really. Yeah, but this is kind of your illustration. It's really hard to tell in these videos how big it is. It feels a lot bigger in person. And also you can probably tell how big it is by the fact that my camera has gone completely sideways. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to like actually use this camera. And I promise that my people are way closer to me than they appear on the camera too. I like can't figure out how to get it off the wide angle setting. So thanks for joining me on this learning curve. Yeah, anyways, there's probably a couple of 3 foot waves that rolled through. If you're sitting in a kayak, 3 foot waves are like roughly when you can no longer see the tops of the heads of the people in the kayak next to you, keeping in mind that I'm a little bit short, so perhaps my assessment of what a 3 foot wave is exaggerated. Yeah, so functionally it was probably, we left the lunch beach at 11:30. And we were probably only out in the actual conditions for, I don't know, 45 minutes. So we had 45 minutes perhaps of like paddling in these bigger waves, which really in the grand scheme of things is not so bad. Yeah, I had a blast, and I think they had a blast too. I think everyone was nervous for like the first 5 minutes, and then kind of got a feel for it and was like, okay, this really isn't so bad. They definitely it was a chatty group that stopped talking as soon as the waves picked up, and that's how you can tell. One thing about Myers Beach in a northeast wind, though, is that as you kind of come around the corner into the the lee of the headland, you can get some protection in the crevasse. So that's what we did, is we all went into the crevasse, got a little protection, took a breather, and I gave my landing instructions there, which was pretty early, but I was like, you guys are not going to be able to hear me over the wind as we come in for the landing. Yeah, so this is what that looked like.
How's everyone doing? Fab? Cool. So that beach that we saw is our landing beach. I anticipate the surf landing I promised. What? Surf landing, as promised.
Please enjoy the view from inside the crevasse as I walk my group through the surf landing procedure, beginning with a do not be alarmed if I flop on the beach like a beach whale upon landing. Sometimes that's just how it is. my legs go numb and I stumble out of the kayak. And for that reason, I actually did not videotape this. I was like, no, we don't need me like flopping into the sand, which I did in fact do. It happens. We did land at 11:57. Everybody was on, like every single boat on dry land, and like emptied out of water by 11:57. It was absolutely emptied out of water because like sometimes a little bit of water gets into the boats during the surf landing, just like as people are pulling off their skirts a little bit early. Yeah, overall a great trip. I do now wish I had the footage of the like ending for you because it was kind of iconic. We all had a great time, all smiles. And yeah, if anyone who is out there is watching this, thank you so much for coming out. You guys were a super fun group, and can't wait to be out on the water again.